Every one of us at some point has encountered someone whose energy feels like walking through quicksand. Toxic people, whether they show up as colleagues, friends, or even family, can drain your spirit and hinder your growth. But here's the truth: smart people don't let toxicity win. They rise above it. They choose boundaries over battles, growth over grudges, and wisdom over reactions. Let's explore how they do it. Smart people know that the first step in dealing with toxic people is recognizing the behavior without rushing to judgment. They don't immediately label someone as bad or irredeemable because they understand that behavior is often a reflection of something deeper. Toxicity can stem from unresolved pain, insecurities, or patterns that someone hasn't yet broken free from. Instead of reacting with anger or frustration, smart people pause and observe. They ask themselves questions like, what's driving this behavior? Or, is this about me or is it about them? This mindset allows them to stay grounded and separate the person from their actions. They also recognize the difference between a bad moment and a pattern of toxic behavior. Everyone has moments when they're not at their best, but consistent negativity, manipulation, or harmful actions require a different approach. By avoiding labels, they create space to respond with wisdom and not resentment. This doesn't mean they excuse bad behavior, far from it. Instead, they refuse to let the toxic person's actions dictate their emotional state. They see beyond the surface, understanding that unresolved pain often leaks out as criticism, blame, or control. This perspective isn't about letting someone off the hook. It's about protecting their peace. When you don't rush to label, you don't absorb their negativity as your own. Smart people realize that when you label someone as toxic without context, you shut the door on growth for both you and them. By stepping back, they allow themselves to respond from a place of strength and empathy, rather than being triggered into conflict. It's not about fixing the toxic person or allowing them to hurt you. It's about choosing not to let their pain become your burden. This balance of awareness and compassion keeps them steady, even in the face of challenging relationships. Smart people understand that boundaries are not about building walls to shut others out. They're about creating clear lines to protect their peace and well-being. Boundaries are acts of self-respect, not acts of punishment. When faced with toxic behavior, they don't lash out or retreat in silence. Instead, they take the time to define what is and isn't acceptable in their interactions. Clarity is key. They don't leave room for misinterpretation or guesswork. Whether it's a straightforward, "I can't talk right now," or a more serious, "I won't accept being spoken to this way," they articulate their needs with precision. But they also understand the power of delivery. Boundaries set with hostility can feel like ultimatums, sparking resistance. That's why they choose to communicate with calm and compassion. They frame their boundaries in a way that respects both themselves and the other person. For example, instead of saying, "You always do this and I'm sick of it," they might say, "When this happens, it makes me feel uncomfortable, so I need us to approach this differently." It's not about control, it's about creating mutual respect. Smart people also know that boundaries are not a one-time declaration. They're practices that require consistency. They reinforce them with actions, not just words. If someone continues to cross a boundary, they don't engage in endless debates or explanations. Instead, they let their behavior speak by limiting access or walking away when necessary. They understand that boundaries can feel uncomfortable for others, especially if those people are used to overstepping. But smart people don't let guilt dismantle their peace. They remind themselves that prioritizing their mental and emotional health is not selfish, it's essential. And here's the most important part: they don't wait for others to honor their boundaries, they honor them first. By doing so, they set a powerful standard for how they expect to be treated. And over time, they find themselves surrounded by relationships that respect that standard. Smart people know that toxic situations thrive on chaos, and the quickest way to lose control is by reacting impulsively. When confronted with negativity or provocation, their first instinct isn't to fight back, it's to pause. That pause creates space. It's in that space where wisdom replaces impulsiveness, and where intention overpowers emotion. Smart people refuse to give that power away. They understand that not everything demands an immediate response. When tension rises, they ask themselves, what's the outcome I want here? This question shifts the focus from the heat of the moment to the bigger picture. They approach interactions like a chess game, thinking several steps ahead rather than reacting to the first move. It's not about suppressing their emotions. They feel anger, frustration, or hurt just like anyone else. But instead of letting those emotions take the wheel, they let them settle. When they respond, it's with composure, not chaos. Their words are measured, their tone steady, and their focus unwavering. This calmness isn't weakness, it's strength. It's the ability to stay rooted while the storm rages around them. Toxic people often thrive on triggering others, using reactions as fuel to escalate conflict or assert control. By refusing to react, smart people disrupt that cycle. They show the toxic person that their tactics won't work, which often diffuses the situation altogether. Sometimes the response is silence. Not every jab or insult deserves acknowledgement. They know that silence can speak volumes, signaling that they won't engage in behavior that drains their energy or derails their peace. Other times, their response is thoughtful and direct, addressing the issue without adding fuel to the fire. In either case, their goal is the same: to maintain their own integrity and control the narrative of their own emotions. By choosing to respond rather than react, they stay true to themselves, regardless of the toxicity around them. Smart people understand that toxic behavior is often less about them and more about the person projecting it. When faced with negativity, they don't let it penetrate their sense of self. They recognize that toxic people often act out of their own insecurities, fears, or unresolved pain. Criticism, blame, or manipulation can feel personal, but smart people remind themselves that these actions are rooted in the other person's struggles, not their own shortcomings. Instead of absorbing hurtful words or actions, they pause and ask, is this about me or is this about them? This question creates a buffer, a mental boundary that prevents the negativity from sinking in. They view toxic behavior as a reflection of the person delivering it, not a reflection of their own value or character. It's not always easy to separate the two, especially when the negativity feels targeted. But smart people practice this perspective like a skill, strengthening it with each encounter. They don't replay toxic comments or internalize harsh judgments. They let them go like water rolling off a stone. This doesn't mean they ignore everything. If there's constructive feedback hidden beneath the negativity, they sift through it. They extract what's useful and discard the rest. But they do so on their own terms, without letting someone else's delivery diminish their self-worth. They also understand the danger of carrying toxic energy. Internalizing negativity can lead to self-doubt, resentment, or even mirroring the toxic behavior. Smart people refuse to let that happen. They consciously choose to protect their inner peace, affirming that they are not defined by someone else's actions or words. When they feel negativity creeping in, they ground themselves in truths about who they are. They remind themselves of their strengths, their values, and their worth, independent of anyone else's opinion. By refusing to internalize negativity, they stay anchored in their own identity. This choice allows them to navigate toxic interactions with resilience and grace, leaving the negativity where it belongs, with the person who created it. Smart people know that toxicity often masks deeper struggles. They recognize that behind the harsh words, manipulative actions, or defensive postures, there's usually a story, one of pain, fear, or unmet needs. Instead of meeting toxicity with contempt or judgment, they choose empathy. This doesn't mean they condone harmful behavior or allow it to go unchecked. Rather, they approach situations with a willingness to understand, even if they can't change the other person. They remind themselves that everyone carries wounds, and some express theirs in unhealthy ways. By focusing on the person rather than just their actions, they create a mental buffer that keeps their own emotions in check. Empathy allows them to step back and view the situation through a wider lens. They might think, what has this person been through to act this way? Or what unmet need might be fueling this behavior? These questions don't excuse the actions, but they help shift the focus from frustration to curiosity. When they interact with toxic people, they use kindness as a tool, not to please, but to disarm. Kindness, when balanced with firm boundaries, can diffuse tension and prevent escalation. It's not about bending over backward to accommodate bad behavior. It's about showing strength through calm and understanding. At the same time, smart people never let empathy override their self-respect. They know the line between compassion and self-sacrifice. If someone's toxicity becomes a pattern or starts to drain their energy, they draw a clear boundary. They understand that being empathetic doesn't mean tolerating mistreatment. Empathy isn't about absorbing someone else's pain. It's about acknowledging it without letting it consume you. This balance of kindness and self-protection is where their strength lies. By choosing empathy over contempt, they refuse to let bitterness take root in their hearts. Instead, they show grace, not for the other person's sake alone, but for their own. They know that carrying resentment only prolongs the harm, while empathy lightens the load and allows them to move forward with peace and dignity. Smart people understand that not every conflict needs resolution and not every relationship can be saved. When faced with persistent toxicity, they recognize when it's time to detach. They don't storm out with anger or create unnecessary drama. Instead, they walk away gracefully, carrying their dignity with them. Detaching doesn't mean giving up or failing. It means choosing peace over prolonged pain. They remind themselves that staying in a toxic situation out of guilt, obligation, or fear only deepens the damage. Letting go is an act of strength, not weakness. It's a declaration that their well-being matters more than fighting a battle that cannot be won. They approach detachment with clarity and intention. It's not about ghosting or cutting someone off in a moment of frustration. It's about thoughtfully deciding that the relationship no longer serves mutual growth or respect. When they make the choice to leave, they do so without malice or resentment. They avoid placing blame or engaging in long debates about who is right or wrong. Instead, they focus on the bigger picture, reclaiming their peace and moving forward. Walking away with dignity also means letting go of the need for closure. They understand that not every toxic person will acknowledge their role or apologize for their actions, and that's okay. Smart people don't wait for validation from someone who may never give it. They find closure within themselves, trusting that their decision to detach is enough. They also resist the urge to look back. They don't replay old arguments or hold on to what-ifs. They release the relationship completely, freeing themselves from the weight of unresolved conflict. In detaching with dignity, they preserve their own integrity. They leave the situation without bitterness, knowing they've done all they could. And most importantly, they make space for healthier connections, ones that align with their values and bring out the best in them. Because at the end of the day, letting go is not about leaving someone behind. It's about choosing yourself and the life you deserve to lead. Smart people know that the people around them play a significant role in shaping their mindset and energy. They make it a priority to surround themselves with relationships that uplift, inspire, and nurture their growth. This isn't about creating a perfect circle of people who never have bad days or flaws. It's about choosing those who bring more light than shadows into their lives. They understand that positivity is contagious, just like negativity. Being around supportive, kind, and motivated individuals creates an atmosphere of encouragement and possibility. In these relationships, they find people who celebrate their successes without envy and stand by them during challenges without judgment. These connections are built on mutual respect and trust, where energy flows both ways. Smart people actively seek out individuals who challenge them to grow, but in ways that feel empowering, not depleting. They're drawn to those who inspire them to dream bigger, think deeper, and become the best version of themselves. This doesn't happen by chance. They cultivate these connections with intention. They invest time and effort into relationships that align with their values, and let go of those that drain their spirit. When faced with toxic dynamics, they don't let loyalty keep them stuck in unhealthy patterns. Instead, they focus on building a community that reflects the kind of life they want to lead. They also understand that surrounding themselves with positivity isn't just about external relationships. It starts with the relationship they have with themselves. They practice self-compassion, speak kindly to themselves, and prioritize their own well-being. When they radiate positivity from within, they naturally attract people who resonate with that energy. Over time, they create a support system that feels like a safety net and a springboard, a space where they can rest and also rise. By choosing to surround themselves with positivity, they protect their emotional landscape from the pull of toxicity. They create an environment that fosters joy, resilience, and growth, one that allows them to thrive in ways they never could alone. Smart people understand that their energy is one of their most valuable resources. They treat it with the same care and intention as they would their time, health, or well-being. Toxic interactions can act like a slow drain, quietly depleting energy reserves until there's nothing left for what truly matters. To avoid this, they set boundaries that guard their emotional and mental space. They know when to say no, when to step back, and when to walk away altogether. Protecting their energy starts with awareness. They pay attention to how they feel after certain conversations, environments, or relationships. If they consistently feel drained, anxious, or less like themselves, they take it as a sign to reevaluate. Self-care isn't just a luxury for them, it's a priority. They build routines that replenish their energy, whether it's through exercise, mindfulness, creative outlets, or simply quiet time to recharge. This isn't about avoiding challenges or difficult people. It's about knowing their limits and respecting them. They approach life with the mindset that they can't pour from an empty cup. If they want to show up fully for their goals, relationships, and passions, they need to safeguard their energy from unnecessary drains. Smart people also understand the importance of balance. They don't let guilt push them into overextending themselves, even for people they care about. They give generously, but never at the expense of their own well-being. When faced with toxic individuals who try to provoke, manipulate, or dominate their attention, they don't engage in the tug-of-war. Instead, they detach with grace, choosing not to invest their emotional energy in battles that won't lead to resolution or growth. They also surround themselves with positivity and seek out relationships that recharge rather than deplete them. This doesn't mean they avoid responsibility or tough conversations. It means they approach them with intention, conserving their energy for what truly aligns with their values. By protecting their energy, smart people ensure that they can stay focused, resilient, and present for the things and people that matter most. It's not just about surviving toxic interactions. It's about thriving in spite of them. Smart people know that when confronted with toxicity, the easiest trap to fall into is mirroring it. It's tempting to respond to rudeness with sarcasm, to meet aggression with aggression, or to counter manipulation with control. But they choose a different path. Instead of reflecting the negativity, they lead with integrity, kindness, and grace. They understand that being an example is far more powerful than reacting in kind. When someone speaks harshly, they respond with calm. When someone acts unfairly, they maintain fairness. This doesn't mean they let others walk all over them. It means they refuse to let toxic behavior compromise their character. By staying grounded in their values, they show that there's a better way to handle conflict. This approach often disarms toxicity. It's hard to keep escalating when the other person refuses to engage in the same way. Their steadiness can force others to pause, reflect, and sometimes even soften, but even when it doesn't change the other person, it protects their own peace. They don't carry the emotional aftermath of saying or doing something they later regret. Being an example is also about setting a standard. It's a quiet way of saying, this is who I am, and this is how I choose to show up, regardless of how you act. It demonstrates strength, confidence, and self-respect. Smart people also know that their behavior has a ripple effect. By staying true to their values, they not only disarm toxicity, but also inspire others to do the same. Their kindness in the face of hostility, their grace under pressure, It sets a tone that others notice and often emulate. They believe in the power of modeling the behavior they wish to see in the world. By choosing to lead rather than react, they create a small but significant shift, proving that integrity doesn't just survive in toxic situations, it thrives. This choice doesn't just protect them, it elevates them. It's a refusal to let someone else's negativity dictate the kind of person they choose to be. Smart people understand that revenge is a fruitless pursuit. When faced with harm or injustice, the temptation to seek payback may arise, but they know that doing so only keeps them tethered to the past. Instead of wasting energy on retaliating, they focus on what truly matters, their own growth. They recognize that time and energy are limited resources, and they choose to invest them in becoming the best version of themselves. Growth for them is the ultimate form of empowerment. By focusing on their own development, whether through learning, improving their skills, or nurturing their mental and emotional health, they break free from the grip of negativity. When they encounter toxic people, they don't let those interactions dictate their trajectory. Rather than letting a desire for revenge cloud their judgment, they channel that energy into building something positive for themselves. This shift in focus allows them to move forward, not stuck in the cycle of resentment or bitterness. They understand that true power comes from resilience, not retribution. Focusing on growth keeps them grounded in their goals and values, ensuring that they don't lose sight of what's important. Every challenge becomes an opportunity to learn, to evolve, and to become stronger. By letting go of the desire to get even, they free themselves from the emotional weight that toxic situations can carry. They know that success, peace, and personal fulfillment are the most powerful responses to those who wish to see them falter. By putting their energy into the things that bring them joy and fulfillment, they create a future that reflects their true potential. Their growth becomes their form of success, one that can't be overshadowed by someone else's negativity or attempts to bring them down. In the end, smart people know that revenge may bring a fleeting moment of satisfaction, but growth brings lasting peace and fulfillment. And that's a far more powerful outcome. In the end, smart people choose a path of strength, grace, and self-respect. They recognize that toxic behavior doesn't define them, nor does it have the power to derail their journey. Instead of getting caught in negativity, they focus on their own growth, protect their energy, and surround themselves with positivity. They lead by example, not by mirroring the actions of others, and they respond with empathy, not contempt. By mastering the art of boundaries, maintaining composure, and letting go when necessary, they ensure that their peace and progress are never compromised. So they understand that true power lies in their ability to rise above, to grow despite adversity, and to choose their own path, one that reflects the best version of themselves. And in doing so, they create lives that are not only successful but meaningful, filled with strength, resilience, and a deep sense of purpose. That is how smart people treat toxic people, not with revenge or resentment, but with wisdom, compassion, and a commitment to their own well-being.